Hey everyone, I'm Matthew, you're at the Hub, and you may not know it, but you're in the Matrix with me. And we're still traveling through time in these segments of the Matrix, back to the experiential foundations of what led to mind-body solutions. In a different segment, I talked about having sensations, being told that what I was feeling as a 13-year-old boy in intensive care wasn't real, that the doctors were telling me that I had no sensations, that they were phantom feelings below my point of injury, but they were real to me. And this is a crucial moment in mind-body solutions development, is for me to go, no, I'm going to listen to what I'm experiencing. But as I'm laying there, and I didn't sit up for months, I was so injured. And I remember the first time I got up into a wheelchair, and I'd been laying flat for so long, unable to eat for 60 days, all this kind of crazy stuff. Things that I can hardly imagine actually happened to me. But I remember having a lot of hope about sitting up in my wheelchair, because everyone was pumping it up to me. It was like, oh, wait till you get in a wheelchair and you can move out of this room, and it'll be so cool when you actually can be more active, a little bit like that. And I remember the very first time I sat up in a wheelchair, or I got put up, propped up in a wheelchair. And the wheelchairs, and I couldn't sit up straight because I've been laying down flat for so long that I would have passed out if they sat me up. So the process of being able to sit up actually took like a week. That's what happens when you lay flat for too long. But I get into a wheelchair, and it's probably, the back is adjustable, and it's probably gets up to about 45 degrees, maybe 65, but not up to 90. And I remember having such high expectations that something was going to be different, that I was going to come back to the world and come back to my life just by sitting up. And I remember that the back of the wheelchair was burnt orange, and they had knobs, the tires were for a quadriplegic, so they had knobs on them. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, is this all it's going to be? And this experience then was also repeated when they brought me out of my room down to the PT gym. And I remember it being on a different floor, and it's a gigantic hospital. And I remember going through double doors to double doors to double doors, through all these like dark tunnels, it seemed to me. I'm sure they were just hallways. And I finally make it into the PT gym. And there's nobody in there. I don't know if I was at a funny time during the day. And there was nobody in there, and the mats were these kind of burnt brown, and everything was so still and silent. And I had been told that this was the beginning of my recovery, that PT and rehabilitation was somehow going to help me come back to life. And I remember sitting there going, oh my God, this is so depressing, because there wasn't much life there. There wasn't much activity. And I remember sitting there going, oh no, this isn't coming back to life. What I didn't realize is that in some ways, I was going to have to wait 12 years until I was 25 to start yoga, to fully start coming back to life in the way that I expected was possible. And it did not happen in my rehabilitation in the way that I was hoping for, in the way that my innocence was hoping for, in the way that I thought might be possible. So that's also the beginning of mind-body solutions, is the disappointment of realizing that what was waiting for me was not going to be as hopeful as I thought. And I'm a hopeful guy, and mind-body solutions is about helping people come back to life and live in the only body they have. And those couple of experiences made me know that there had to be a different way. And it takes time. What I want to talk about in the next segment, in a different segment, is what it takes, what vision instead of hope to come back to my body, rehabilitation vision showed me to do something else. And it took me 12 years to start to find yoga, to find the way that the 13-year-old boy hoped was possible. So, until we meet up again in the Matrix.
If you'd like to learn more about Mind-Body Solutions, visit us at our website, mindbodysolutions.org.